Chapter 2. The king allotted to the Lord Proprietors the real estate in the Carolina and Jersey colonies. The Proprietors wrote charters that outlined the government structure and laws for these colonies. Their main goal was to attract investment in companies to settle that would farm, mine, and fur trade for export to Britain at low wholesale prices. The Proprietors company would buy and then retail at a profit in Britain and Germany. What in particular did any of these Lord Proprietors, these warpreneurs, actually do to achieve this position? George Monck descended from the Plantagenet royal family of France that had ruled England previously. His name shows up with the Norman conquest of 1066, indicating his family was part of ancient Norman nobility as well. Monck served King Charles I in support of the Huguenot Protestant dukedoms located in La Rochelle along the Atlantic coast of France. They fought for independence from the Frankish Catholic kings in control of the interior and eastern regions of France. He also fought for the Protestant Dutch states against the Spanish Catholic king over a 9-year period. Monck embarked on his warpreneur career after he killed a sheriff that came to collect taxes on behalf of another noble. His jury of peers allowed him a plea bargain if he left Britain to command ships and soldiers on behalf of the Protestant Dutch. In 1644, he was captured fighting against Cromwell's Protestant army inside of Ireland and imprisoned for 2 years. But he remained loyal to Charles II. Once Cromwell became Lord Protector and abolished Parliament around 1650, Monck chose his get-out-of-jail card by serving the Cromwell regime as general at sea over all British warships and field general that violently subdued Catholics in Scotland. As the nobility exhausted its finances with the war and Cromwell died, many Parliament members loyal to King Charles I resurfaced. Using world-class 007 spycraft and political maneuvering, Monck influenced enough members of Parliament to invite Charles II to return in 1660 and take the throne of his father. When the new Stuart King, Charles II, landed at Dover, Monck was the first to greet him as he came ashore, an act of partnership that would last for 25 years. Monck had played his cards and alternated loyalties perfectly. The king granted Monck an entire forest, a pension, huge lands in America as a Lord Proprietor, a seat in the House of Lords, and shares in the Royal African Company that was a very profitable slave trade company. How had Monck maneuvered from genociding Catholics for Cromwell to welcoming Catholic King Charles II back to England? Recall that dictator Cromwell placed Monck as general of an army of mercenary English soldiers that invaded and subdued Scotland's Catholic nobles. Soon after Cromwell died, Monck raised his English army to London in competition with other warpreneurs descending upon the seat of royal power with their armies to secure their interest in the new regime. Monck's regiment forcibly removed and dispersed some units loyal to Cromwell, and then collaborated with the other nobles of Parliament to restore the Stuarts to the crown. This leads to the dramatic scene of Monck welcoming Charles II upon the beach of Dover with his armada of ships background. The new king needed protection, and Monck's private army provided it as the Lord General's Regiment of Foot Guards. Renamed the Coldstream Guards by Monck's predecessor and fellow Lord Proprietor, Sir Craven, the Crown assigned it to invade New York and South Carolina during the War for Independence, and it ultimately surrendered at Yorktown. The Coldstream Guards continued to operate on behalf of the British capitalist leaders. In the aftermath of World War II, the Israeli militant group LHI assassinated the British Minister for the Middle East, Lord Monck. This forced pro-Israel Churchill to deploy the Coldstream Guards to prevent further Jewish terrorist attacks against the British administrators and native Semitic citizens of the Mandate of Palestine. This violence escalated in correlation to the increasing waves of European Jews that were brought over by companies that paid for their transportation, a lot of them farmland in Palestine, and used non-government military groups to intimidate natives. Another instance of the powerful role played by the Coldstream Guards occurred in 1956, when it partnered with units of Israel and France to invade Egypt over the wealth created by the international maritime shipping that passed through the Suez Canal, located in Egypt. The original corporate charter for the Suez Canal Company split the shares 55-45 between the French and Egyptian capitalists. However, Great Britain colonized Egypt in a program named the Veiled Protectorate, and forced Egyptian owners to sell their shares to them in 1875, using the threat of violent invasion as Britain's leverage in the negotiations. The official excuse: Egyptian governing nobles defaulted on their supposed debts to British bankers. After World War II, the U.S. forced Britain, against Prime Minister Churchill's will, to relinquish Egypt as a colony. Naturally and legally, Egypt's leaders took back 100% ownership of the shares in the Suez Canal Company in 1956. In response, UK and Israeli capitalists, alongside capitalists at the CIA and State Department, began to send units to invade Egypt. At this time, the Dulles brothers led the CIA and State Department, and they were old family capitalists with a law firm that represented the interests of Wall Street banks. Kermit Roosevelt, of the capitalist family of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, was a leader in the CIA from its inception during World War II. The Dutch Roosevelt wealth in America began when New York City was still owned by the Dutch West India Corporation. Their wealth included Kermit's father overseeing their Buenos Aires businesses as executive of a major bank there. Only President Eisenhower's personal stature as the former Allied commander-in-chief prevented the invasion forced through a compromised buffer zone between Israel and Egypt, while forcing Egypt to pay Britain for its shares, which Egypt accomplished in 6 years using revenue from the canal. Besides creating a military unit that continues to serve the interests of Britain's Parliament today, Monck also had powerful relations and descendants, such as son Christopher Monck, governor of Jamaica. The very powerful Lord John Grenville was a cousin and fellow Lord Proprietor. Charles Stanley Monck was the first Governor General of Canada in the 1800s. This ends Chapter 2.